What you think, living every day in your head for free.
Well, that's a bad sign. I'm not hearing any music. Are y'all? There we go.
That
was weird.
What you think about when you're born into a fire? Let them burn it out. Sell them to the richest buyer. They wanna let the world decay. They tell us lies and fade away. We feel betrayed.
What's up, Internet? I'm Aries Van Dam. Still stricken with the flu. It's killing me. It's worse than COVID. So, want to thank y'all for dropping in today. And I want to thank my new subscribers. Apparently it works if I have to tell y'all to subscribe. I need y'all to help me prove to my friends I don't have to pretend to be some fake nice guy to get y'all to subscribe. Like I try to tell them, like, that's why they like me. I'm an asshole. I am an asshole. And that's why they like me. So help me show them that just pretending to be nice is not going to get where I want to go. Today is Feminism Friday. So I'm adding a little video that I found of Pearl. It's a little 20-minute video at the end. Because this video, the Andrew Tate versus Piers Morgan, it caught me last night and I watched most of it. Well, the beginning of it. And I just kind of wanted to get into that one. And it's not very long. So we'll be in for about an hour 20 today. It'll be a moderately short one. So let's get into it real quick though, because I'm sick and I want to go to sleep. So here we go. Excuse me. Let me apologize before we get started for any sniffles, any coughs, any sneezes, any farts or burps, whatever. I don't know what's coming out of me today. So let's get started.
You said, I miss human trafficking. Why did you delete it?
It was just deleted by my PR team as I slept. These gotcha moments are 5 or 6 years out of date. Let's be professionals, Piers. Why was the DJ unwittingly, he was unaware of what the song was?
Far be it from me to teach you how to answer questions in interviews, is to say that you find what's in the Epstein files utterly disgusting, and celebrating the song Heil Hitler is also disgusting and reprehensible. And if you'd said that, I could respect it.
There's pictures of you with certain members of Epstein's circle.
Well, no, I'm happy to talk about that.
There we go.
Jeffrey Epstein's saga is undoubtedly one of the biggest scandals in modern history. Many VIP men are now being humbled by lurid details about their relationship with a convicted sex offender and claims about their own behavior with his victims. Too few have faced real consequences yet, but the public's in no mood to draw a line and move on. The view that he was an intelligence asset for a foreign government has moved firmly from the realm of conspiracy to mainstream thinking. A reasonable person might think that Andrew Tate is the last person to be moralizing on all this. He's fought damning out.
I'd love to go back in time and see some of Pierce's thoughts on that back then. I promise you he didn't think it was real then.
Allegations.
Until someone in the government tells him it's not real.
About his own conduct with women in multiple countries for several years. And that, he says, is precisely the problem.
For the last 4 years, the media all around the world has accused me of sexual crimes. On repeat, over and over, every single day. And now that the Epstein files are out, they're running cover, saying that being found in the Epstein files doesn't mean you did anything wrong. Let me ask you a question. If I was in the Epstein files, Andrew Tate, do you have any idea, the media frenzy, do you have any idea how they would attack me? They would accuse me of things I've done wrong. They would say that there's no smoke without fire, that I'm definitely guilty, that I deserve more prosecution, more house arrest. I was locked in my house for 4 years without being convicted. I've been to court in 3 countries, and not a single court on the planet can convict me of any sexual crimes at all. Yet the media still convince everyone at home and still endlessly print that I'm a bad person while running cover for the people who are in the Epstein files.
Well, Andrew Tate rejoins me on Uncensored now. Andrew, welcome back to Uncensored.
Thank you very much. I hope you're recovering well, sir.
Yeah, slowly but surely. Thank you. So it's an interesting point you raise. I'm not going to relitigate in this interview the outstanding criminal and civil actions that you're facing, other than to repeat what I always say when I interview you, which is, as we sit here, you've not been convicted of any crime. And I do think the process that you've gone through has seemed ridiculously long and doesn't serve anybody. So let's just put that to one side for the benefit of this debate. Because I do think you raise an interesting point about the experience you've had and the experience that we are seeing with people in the Epstein files.
Yeah, it's not only ridiculously long, Piers, it's actually ridiculously harsh. My brother and I have gone to jail. We've been reputationally slandered. We had a company that turned over $150 million a year, which has been economically decimated. And we've been trialed by media endlessly while members of parliament stand up and say that we're the most dangerous people on the planet because we're committing sex crimes. When, of course, no court anywhere in all of the countries which I've been investigated under has managed to convict us of any crime. At the same time they are doing this, at the same time we have members of parliament standing up and saying my brother and I are dangerous. They are sitting on information, sitting on clear evidence of a link between members of the elite inside of Western governments and a convicted pedophile. And to me, it seems absolutely ridiculous that they're going to come along and accuse two young brothers, two guys from a council estate in Luton who have never been convicted and say that we're the enemy and talk about us in question time while ignoring information they've had for over a decade, linking senior members of British government directly to a convicted pedophile. And I think anybody with a brain at home understands this reeks of monumental corruption.
Well, I certainly think, I've drawn a line on the Epstein
Yeah, everyone but Piers has known that for quite a while.
scandal in terms of plausible deniability for people in public life, because so many people, public figures, have been connected with him. That there is a qualitative difference to me between the people who disowned him after his conviction in 2009 for being a pedophile who abused an underage girl, and for those who then stayed in contact with him. And many of the people we're seeing toppling like dominoes, whether it's Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, Lord Mandelson, and others, are people who emphatically denied staying in contact with him. And now we see from the files that that is actually a lie, and they continue consorting with him for many years afterwards. Do you see that distinction? In other words, take your situation. If you were to be convicted of what are some very serious offences that you've been charged with, if you were to be convicted, and it's hypothetical, I accept that, and you must go through fair due process, and it should happen faster than it's happening. I've said that. But if you were to be convicted, would you think it's fair and reasonable of people in that eventuality?
He's on trial in England for saying unkind things, just saying naughty things. That's what he's on trial in England for. This is absurd whenever you have actual people that are going to be hearing over him that are doing things with real kid touchers. That's how disgusting this is.
To say, I
Tate
want nothing more to do with Andrew Tate and to be judged accordingly. And conversely, if people decided to carry on, being your friend and doing business with you, whatever it may be, they should be judged accordingly too.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. And you've also been very fair to me. I have to give you credit for repeatedly pointing out that I've not been convicted and that you believe in the rule of law and we should wait for a conviction. The problem here we have is that we see all of our democratic institutions are absolutely corrupt. How can Peter Mandelson be promoted to the most important political position that perhaps exists inside of the UK government, which is ambassador to the United States of America, when he has such clear links to a convicted pedophile? Why was he promoted? Is it because of his clear links to a convicted pedophile, which is a whole another question? And now you're asking me, do I trust the UK courts? Do I trust the systems which are hiding information that they have on pedophiles, which are clearly protecting powerful people, which are clearly engaged in a two-tier policing structure? Do I now trust them to give me a fair trial? The whole point of democracy is transparency. The whole point is rule of law. And if they're applying rule of law to some people and completely ignoring it for elites, you now have to ask yourself a question. Are the courts fair, and is the system fair at all? Please understand, my brother and I have gone through the most heinous trial by media that has happened in modern times. As I've said, we've already been punished more than most sex offenders are ever punished at all. We were locked up for a total of 4 years. We lost our business. Our bank accounts were frozen. We were unable to travel. We couldn't see our children. I missed medical appointments. Many bad things have happened. My mother had a heart attack and I couldn't be there. These people, where they had serious, credible, concrete evidence, haven't even been investigated. And these are the people who are in charge of the government. So Piers, as a logical person, can I answer your question? Can I trust anything the British government does when they're clearly running cover for people that they have serious evidence on, while endlessly attacking me and mentioning my name in the media and mentioning my name in question time when they don't even have any evidence on me and they've struggled to find a conviction for the last 5 solid years? To me, that reeks of governmental corruption.
Well, I think it's a perfectly reasonable question if I'm in your shoes. Yeah, because you've not been convicted of any crime. The interesting thing about Mandelson is you have the British Prime Minister, Sir Keir Starmer, today admitting in Prime Minister's questions that he did know, because of the vetting process, that Mandelson had continued in a friendly relationship with Epstein that was ongoing. And despite that, he still appointed him as one of the most powerful people in his government as the UK ambassador to the United States. And
because he doesn't give a fuck about it. No one does. They don't care at all because they're probably involved with it too. Or they know a lot of people who do, who it was. This is so obvious.
That, I think, is going to be was going to be very damaging for Starmer, because that's the first admission that he knew that Mandelson and Epstein had continued being friends up to the point, well, we don't know to what final point, but certainly right up to near to when he died. So there you've got somebody in Mandelson's case who twice had to resign from governments in disgrace over various financial skullduggery. And then you have him supporting and staying friendly with a convicted paedophile, and the British Prime Minister knowing they had stayed in touch and it was an ongoing friendship, and still making him the ambassador. I find that crazy.
Well,
and he didn't believe it 2 days before they said it.
The optimistic view is the one you've just taken,
chump.
that he got his position despite the fact he was linked to an international pedophile ring. Of course, the more realistic view is that he got his position because he was linked to an international pedophile ring. And I think a lot of people are waking up now to the absolute rot which exists inside of these democratic countries that we're supposed to believe in. We're supposed to believe in fair elections, a rule of law, and transparency. And it's becoming clear to everybody at home that they have been lied to, that the rule of law doesn't apply. Two-tier policing is clearly taking place depending on your social status. If you're a young man from Luton, they'll trial you by media and throw you in jail and take all of your money without credible accusation. But if you're a lord, perhaps, they can sit for over a decade on credible evidence of you spending time with a pedophile on a secret island and refusing to even investigate you, let alone slander you in the media, let alone. And I think this just shows how rotten our democratic systems have become and how much change needs to take place for anybody to believe in any of the rule of law again. I, after the Epstein file release, have even less faith in the British judicial system, the British courts, or the British police, because for me, they're going to contact everyone I've ever known. They're going to go through my phones, cameras, laptops, arrest me 5 times, arrest the mothers of my children, arrest my mom, raid houses, and struggle to find a single shred of evidence that allows them to convict me. However, when they have piles and piles of data of credible evidence that crimes have taken place against other people of a different social status than I, they are going to sit there completely protected by the state. So it shows that these democracies that we live within are completely corrupted from head to toe. And without a rule of law, then what is a democracy?
The Epstein stuff that got removed, they are protecting the people who are talking about having sex with children. Why are you protecting them as if they're the victim? Why is their name being removed from the record? They're the ones we're trying to find, and they're treating them like they're the victims because they were blackmailed, right? They're treating this as a blackmail case. They're not treating it as a, things I can't say on YouTube case. Why is that? The victims are the people, right? The people that were hurt, not the people doing the hurting. But that's the way they are looking at this. That's why they blacked out some names that really we should be getting those names, and that they're violating the act that we passed just to get this truth. So it's really frustrating. I'm going to fast forward through his ads because Piers doesn't use creatine and he doesn't use any health stuff. You can tell. Watch.
You all know the story of Camelot, the Round Table, the knights, King Arthur, him now.
Don't
the stuff that's coming out, and is still coming out. But what we now know is that he was the business secretary in our government and was trading and passing on top secret information that was financially incredibly sensitive to Epstein, a convicted pedophile, multimillionaire US financier. God knows what Epstein then did with that, with his financial friends. Did he trade? Did he make more millions? Quite likely. We don't know. I'm sure that will all unravel. But he was doing this, which is an act of absolute treachery. And I saw Starmer in the House of Commons today, really going after Mandelson. I'm like, well, that ship has sailed. You knew what you were dealing with here. This guy had twice had to resign from government. You knew he carried on seeing a convicted paedophile, perhaps right up to Epstein's death. And notwithstanding that, and notwithstanding you didn't know the nature of what they were doing in this ongoing friendship, you take this massive punt of putting him on the global stage again. And that's why, Mandelson, to me, he is facing criminal prosecution and very likely a lengthy prison sentence. It's hard to think, actually, of a more obvious case, a more prima facie case of corruption in public office than what he did. He sold this country down the river, giving secrets to a convicted pedophile in America.
And here's the real interesting question, sir, because it clearly is high treason. The interesting questions are, firstly, how did Jeffrey Epstein get so rich? Because nobody can seem to answer that question.
Right.
I sit here and wonder,
we can.
While our elites of Western governments are continually making decisions which go against
Israeli
the
billionaires,
will of 95% of the electorate on repeat. Nobody in the UK wants all of their tax money sent to Ukraine. We have enough problems in England. Nobody in the UK wants the small boats to keep arriving, yet they keep arriving. So we have a democratic system, which is clearly completely corrupted. There's clearly compromise on all of the elites inside of our system. These people are clearly financing pedophiles on the other side of the planet, making them billionaires. And they're making decisions that nobody is voting for and that nobody wants. And then to try and deflect and conflate, they take my brother and I and they say that we're dangerous. Or now we have Keir trying to sell Mandelson down the river, just as you quite correctly pointed out, when he made the decision himself. Our systems are completely corrupted from head to toe, and Epstein is only the tip of the iceberg. There are many other secret societies, many other islands, and many other places where these people convene. And that's where conversations are happening, which completely subvert the will of democracy and subvert the will of the electorate. And I have to give credit to Donald Trump himself. Although it may have got him some smoke because he does appear in the files, he at least released them, showing that he's maverick enough to
After an act of Congress. I don't know where this take's coming from Tate.
Try and bring some transparency back to our democratic systems. Because if Donald Trump didn't win, these conversations wouldn't even be taking place. And Keir trying to run damage control after not mentioning this at all and trying to keep on a lid on it for so long, just once again shows there's a lot more to this story than we know.
I mean, a few things you said there I would pick up on and challenge. There is no evidence that the majority of people in the UK do not supporting Ukraine. In fact, it's the opposite. The majority of people in the UK do support helping the Ukrainians. You're right about the small boats. On Trump, I know Trump very well. I spoke to him a few days ago. I think on the Epstein files.
To be clear, the majority in America do not supporting Ukraine. So just want that on the record, since Piers is bringing up how stupid England is.
He's dug himself into a big hole because he made it part of his campaigning in the last election that he would be completely transparent and release all the Epstein files. I had people in his administration within days of him being inaugurated who came on this show and said, we're going to release everything. We had Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, leading everybody up the garden path and saying, here are the binders with all the stuff. And none of it happened. And then we had Elon Musk suddenly coming out saying Donald Trump's in the files, which is ironic, given we now know so is Elon Musk. And it doesn't mean either of them did anything wrong, but they're in the files. And you've now got a situation where millions of these documents have been released, but we're told there are still 3 million that may not be released. Well, how is that ever going to solve a scandal in terms of addressing the raging conspiracy theories if you hold back 3 million documents? That's not transparent. So I think if I'm being critical of Trump about anything with this, my main criticism is the failure to deliver on his promise to be transparent.
Wouldn't that be in violation of the Epstein Transparency Act that was specifically put down rules for all the omissions of people's faces and names? Wouldn't that be in violation of that, Piers? How about having some nuts and admitting it right here?
Perhaps, but he's certainly been more transparent than the governments before, where we know that
After an act of Congress, Tate. Thanks.
they had this information for a very long time and an absolute lid was kept on it. So at least he's beginning the process of letting the people at home understand how corrupt our institutions are. And
While he's kicking and screaming and telling people not to support him if they want these files. Yeah, he's been real cooperative, Tate.
myself, I'm in a lot of trouble with many charges from the British government for my speech, saying the things I say are completely unacceptable. But primarily, my message is challenging the blanket authority and the blanket narratives which are pushed by our institutions. And now that we see our institutions are completely corrupted by billionaire pedophiles, now we see our institutions have been completely overrun and they're operating in secret rooms and subverting the rule of law. I think that makes it even more important that people like myself continue to challenge authority and demand answers and demand transparency and not believe official narratives. This is just the tip of the iceberg. What we know is going to be a fraction of what actually took place. And I find it absolutely disgusting, and I don't want to make this about me, that they've managed to do so much damage to my brother and I with no evidence, while sitting on such a huge pile of evidence for some of the most important people on the planet. To address what you said about Trump, I agree with you, but I think Trump would have been under huge pressure from some of the most important people in administrations all around the world to release nothing at all. And the fact that he continued to try and be transparent.
Yes, after Congress, Tate. Yes, he didn't do that. His friends did stop us, stop him from giving it to us. And then the Congress had to step in because of Peter Massey. And that's why we have them. Not because Trump wanted to cooperate. No, he's part of the deep state Don.
And allow people at home to understand how this world really works. I have to give him credit for, because a lot of people would have been in Trump's ear saying, don't release anything. And yes, he's a maverick, as is Elon. And if our democracies are going to survive in the coming decade, with all of the problems that exist in our societies, transparency is the most important thing we can push for.
Yeah, but even with Elon, who I'm a big fan of in terms of his business acumen and achievements and everything else, but he's out there every day, all day at the moment saying, I've led the charge against the Epstein stuff. I want full transparency. I had nothing to do with it. I rejected all advances from Epstein and so on. And yet we're reading emails from him where he's clearly very keen to get on the island, very keen to know what night's the wildest party night and so on, which is a complete contrary, conflicted reality to what he's trying to make us think. Age hits you like a brick and earlier than you think. It turns out that most
breaks your hip too.
Losing tested. They offer a 90-day kick off the new year
with certain members of Epstein's circle, and I'm not going for a second going to accuse you of any kind of wrongdoing.
Well, no, but I'm happy to talk about that. But hang on, okay, but look, you raised that, so I can. But I have explained that very simply. All right. So in 2013, I think it was, I went to a book launch for a guy who was editor of a British newspaper in Manhattan. A lot of starry people there, Stephen Fry, all these people. And I was introduced to a woman I didn't know called Ghislaine Maxwell. And the link was that I was editor of a Daily Mirror in the UK, which was owned by her father for many years, Robert Maxwell, who then fell off a boat and probably killed himself. Maybe not, we don't know. And I had a 5-minute conversation with Ghislaine Maxwell, and a photographer appeared and took group pictures, and then people have cut out me and her and posted it. Now, I've explained that many times. That was the only time I've met Ghislaine Maxwell or had any dealing with her. Never met Jeffrey Epstein or had any dealings with him. Certainly never went to his island or his parties or anything. That's it. So my full extent of exposure to either of them was 5 minutes at a book launch, standing there, and there happened to be a photographer, and that was 2013. So I argue.
I believe you.
So you worked for a Mossad agent? Because that was your excuse, that her dad owned the place you worked, so you worked for a Mossad agent. Do you still work for a Mossad agent? Just curious.
Yeah, I've got no problem, people. I've got no problem. Well, it doesn't really matter. That's what happened. And the point being, though, that I believe I've been 100% transparent. All I'm requiring other people to be is when similar stuff comes out about them, be equally transparent. Right. And my argument about Elon is he's saying one thing, but we're reading a different thing in the emails, which contradicts what he's saying. That is not being transparent. If I said this about Ghislaine Maxwell and someone said, well, hang on, because I've got all these emails of you and her having a good old chinwag on email or going to the island, or then I'm a liar. Then I'm lying and I should be judged accordingly. Nobody has ever said that. Everyone accepts.
Absolutely.
I met her for 5 minutes. I want people in these files to say, here's what's in there about
Cash that check every Friday, though, didn't you?
me. I mean, look at Bill Gates, right? So Bill Gates has come out. We got a clip, I think, of Bill Gates. This is so just for viewers who've not followed this, Bill Gates, it turns out in one of the documents in the Epstein files, Epstein appears to have drafted a note that would have been sent by one of Bill Gates's right-hand men to Gates by way of kind of leverage stroke blackmail for this aide to avoid being fired as he feared he was going to be. And in it, he says that he protected Gates when he caught an STD from a prostitute, and that also protected him when he wanted to get medication secretly to Gates's then wife to stop her getting infected. Now, what was interesting about
Piers just got the evidence. We all knew long ago that Bill Gates was involved with Epstein. It's not a shock. Piers needs proof of everything. He can't just make any leap in his head at all.
Gates says this. Let's take a look at what he has said in the last 24 hours about this.
I met Jeffrey in 2011. The focus was always, he knew a lot of very rich people, and he was saying he could get them to give money to global health. You know, in retrospect, that was a dead end, and I was foolish to spend time with him. I was one of many people who regret ever knowing him. You know, every minute I spent with him, I regret, and I, apologize that I did that. I was only at dinners, I never went to the island, I never met any women. And so, the more that comes out, the more clear it'll be that although the time was a mistake, it had nothing to do with that kind of behavior.
To be fair, he was only 45. How could he know prostitution was bad at that age?
Now, compare and contrast that with the reaction. Well, I want to play the reaction now of Melinda Gates, his ex-wife, when the same story is put to her. She said this.
I wonder what your dominant emotion is when you read these news articles with these details.
Sad. Just unbelievable sadness. Unbelievable sadness, right? I left my marriage. I had to leave my marriage. I wanted to leave my marriage. I had to leave I felt I needed to eventually leave the foundation. So it's just sad. That's the truth.
She knows more than she's saying.
No, I felt on a human level incredibly. I felt very sad for her. But the point being, she didn't deny that story, right? Which would have been very easy to do. So I think that Bill Gates is going to come under a lot more heat for the veracity of his distancing statements here about it. And look, it may well be Piers, he's done nothing criminal either, but it looks damning.
Absolutely, it looks damning. And you're talking about him being under a lot more heat. I would argue that he's not going to face a fraction of the heat that I have. He's not going to lose Microsoft. He's not going to go to jail in Romania. He's not going to be locked in his house for 4 years. And it's important we understand context. I believe everything you said about your relation with Lashane, because I know that rich and powerful people know each other. And sometimes you meet at social events, these things happen. But also I know that people who do wrong things don't often admit to doing them wrong. And it's the job of the authorities to investigate people who perhaps they have evidence that they've committed crimes, investigate them fully and clearly, and let the people at home know the rule of law applies. How can the British state have endless resources to try and put myself in jail, endless resources to lock people up for tweets, endless resources to knock on doors for people who are unhappy with their government, but do not have resources to investigate this huge pile of evidence that we have, that huge, important members of the British establishment have a serious link with a convicted pedophile? It is because it is two-tier policing. It is because Keir and his government and the government previous are so corrupt to their core that they want to ignore these pieces of evidence and go after the people like myself instead who talk about them. And this reeks of absolute governmental corruption. Yes, there are people in the files who did nothing wrong. Yes, there are people in the files who did a lot wrong and are lying about it. This is the job of our policing structure. This is why we pay our taxes, sir. We need to know exactly what happened to guarantee the electorate that we are not living in some kind of dictatorship, some kind of tyranny where foreign pedophiles are made billionaires based on the back of dodgy contracts and unexplained sums of money, while also influencing government in real time because they have huge amounts of compromise on some of the most important people on the planet. I want investigations into every single person inside of the Epstein files that I have suffered. I have suffered investigations. Why don't these people suffer investigations, considering there is far more damning evidence on any of them than there is on me? And I would argue that investigations can take place against Elon and Trump also. And the reason they released the files is because they believe they will eventually be found innocent. But investigations must take place. Of course, Bill Gates is not going to sit up on a video and admit what he did wrong. He's not going to ever tell the truth. But we have enough evidence to at least question him.
Pierce will never believe it then.
So you have to ask why these people could meet on an island, why this evidence has existed for 10 long years, why all the governments were aware of this evidence, and why they were refusing to even investigate, refusing to even question these people, despite them having such strong evidence, and instead going after the people like myself and other members of the public who highlight distrust in the exact organisms, the exact organizations that are supposed to be doing this work.
I want to turn just to some things you've posted in the last week, which you then deleted. And I want to ask you why you deleted them. So the first one,
Sure.
You said the thing I'm not supposed to say about the Epstein files is that women have become such lying whores that it's impossible to take any of these unsubstantiated claims seriously. Women have sex, then cry rape so often that real victims never face justice. Now,
I smell a not all comment coming right here. That's what this is going to be. I can guarantee it. I haven't seen this far into the video, but I bet you it's going to be not all women are like this. I don't think he means all women. I think he means the ones that are doing that. But
notwithstanding that a lot of people will be highly offended by the language you've used there about women in a generalized manner, why did you delete it?
Yeah, so there are so many members of the public, unfortunately, which try and abuse judicial bodies. And we do have a problem. And I think you're probably prepared to admit this. We have a problem in the West now where girls who may not get a handbag they want will make false claims to the police and people's lives are ruined. And this is truly disgusting, not only because men's lives are ruined, but because when we have a scandal like this, where there's real victims and real justice must be done, we have too many people involved or too many people who have previously cried wolf, which makes it very difficult for the investigative bodies to get to the truth of anything. So it's truly heinous that women lie and pretend to be raped when they're not and make real victims, put real victims in a position where they cannot trust the police to get them justice like they deserve.
So why delete it?
It was just deleted by my PR team as I slept. As you know, I'm facing a criminal case in the UK for a lot of the things that I've tweeted because they think that my speech is somehow, Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer believe my speech is the most dangerous thing that exists on the internet and that the UK society cannot function while I highlight distrust in these institutions. At the same time, of course, they're promoting Peter Mandelson to some of the highest levels of government. So they're corrupt.
But you see, what I would say is I can totally understand why your PR team would do that because
Me too.
You don't say a small number of women or qualify in any way.
Not
you
all.
just say women have become such lying whores.
Not all.
And I find that deeply offensive. I'm not even a woman. Why
You are.
generalize about all
You
women
are.
in that way? Why say women have sex, then cry rape so often? The real victims. Why not phrase it in a way that might engender
Tone policing.
some empathy for your situation, rather than actually make every woman who hears that think that you hate women, you're a misogynist, you think they're all liars.
You can hear the women on whatever say this exact thing every time on whatever. It's called tone policing, and that's what women do, Pierce. Women.
They all cry rape. Why talk in that generalized inflammatory language?
Well, it may shock you to believe that women absolutely love me and my largest fans are women and I'm approached every day by women. I don't say things to try and elicit sympathy for myself, Piers. I made a brand on saying what I believe to be true, even if it's shocking, even if some people find it confrontational. My point is that we have a massive scandal now where genuine victims exist, where we have compromise on the highest levels of government, and we have women who are wasting police time with false accusations. And many men's lives have been ruined by exactly that. And it's disgusting because rape, I have many daughters, is probably the most heinous of all crimes that exists on the planet. And you like to believe that if a woman cries rape.
Okay, but you also know that only in the UK, about 1% of all rape cases are successful. 99% do not lead to conviction. You must accept that that also is outrageous and shocking and has to change.
Well, that's outrageous if
Only if you assume that they were really telling the truth. I don't believe all women, Pierce. It shows that you do.
The 99% are genuine rape claims. Of course, we can't try and get the number up without evidence. My point is, of that 99%, how many are fake? We don't know. We live in a world now where, very unfortunately, women can get huge financial gain, and they can also get huge social media gain by falsely accusing men who never did anything. And that makes it extremely difficult for the judicial authorities and the police to find true victims. If we didn't have all these fake rape claims being given to the British police all day, perhaps they'd have more interest. I doubt it, but they'd certainly have more time in investigating a serious pile of
Those assaults in England, I had to reword that. Those are also the result of some of the immigration they keep bringing in. I would like to look at the demographics of who's getting let off of those charges. I'll bet you it's not British people.
evidence of over 6 million files of people who are spending a lot of time with a convicted pedophile. These things are not mutually exclusive. Of course, we need to try and prevent any kind of fake accusation of crime happening, of course. And of course, crying wolf makes it more difficult to discern what is true and what is not true. But it is very clear that huge piles of evidence exist here inside of the Epstein files, which have been ignored. And it's not only because of fake rape claims, it's because of systemic corruption inside of our democratic systems. And the democratic system has all of the resource it needs to come after the people like myself who highlight these corruptions, as opposed to trying to fix the problem.
Yeah, but on the one hand, your position is that the Epstein files, they should be all released. These awful men should be held to account. Blah 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 blah.
I think that all men should be investigated, sir.
Okay, but on the other hand, you then say, but the problem with the Epstein files is women have become such lying whores, it's impossible to take any of these unsubstantiated claims seriously.
Was anything in the Epstein files unsubstantiated? We have 3 million files so far, and we're halfway through.
How do you square those two positions?
It makes it very difficult for a judicial authority when they get a claim of rape, knowing that 99% never lead to conviction, to take them as seriously as they should. So this is a two-pronged attack. Of course, the police need to heavily investigate every single accusation of rape, as they did on my brother and I. Of course, they took that extremely seriously and failed to reach conviction.
You're inferring that the 2,000 women, who've made allegations about Epstein and other men involved with Epstein, that none of their claims can be taken seriously.
Only if you are saying that they're unsubstantiated. He didn't say that they were unsubstantiated. Those are very substantiated. There's a lot of files and a lot of information to back them up.
That's not actually what I'm inferring. What I'm inferring is that when you understand information warfare and you understand how important it is for them to try and shape a narrative to save themselves, if one of those women have lied, they're going to take her story, prove it's a lie, amplify it, and try and discredit all of the women who have actually told the truth. That's why it's so important that women do not lie to judicial authorities about things like rape, because it's extremely important.
But why don't you talk more respectfully? All right, but why don't you talk more respectfully about women in general?
Because he doesn't want to. What business is it of yours?
But save your anger for the small minority of women who do what you say they do. It's not the vast majority of women. You know it and I know it. It's not like all women that make these allegations are making it up. You know that. And it's the way you talk in this generalized term is why people think you're a misogynist and hate women. And you may well, I don't know if you are or not, but I do know that when you use language like this, which even your PR team then take down. I mean, look, another one you posted that they took down, I presume they took it down, you can clarify. You said, I miss human trafficking. The emotions ran high. Been chasing dopamine ever since.
Yeah, it's hyperbolic. I think you're aware that the internet has changed a lot across the last 5 years and that the entire nature of conversations has changed. And it's hyperbolic to highlight exactly how ridiculous it is that I was accused of human trafficking in the first place, while we have members of the Labour government, which are spending time on an island with a convicted pedophile. And everybody else at home understands that. The internet is heavily hyperbolic. It's heavily sarcastic. This is the way the internet currently functions. So I don't think anybody at home really believes, one, that I'm a human trafficker. I've yet to meet anybody in real life who said anything other than they're trying to stitch you up, Andrew, for highlighting their corruption. And secondly, even if I was somehow convicted of human trafficking, that people would believe that I'm going to tweet that that's what I want to do. It's called sarcasm. I'm sure you understand it very well. The nature of the internet has changed.
Why did you take it down? Or was it your
And
Who took it down?
I'm answering the question. And these gotcha moments are 5 or 6 years out of date. Nobody cares anymore about these gotcha moments. Everybody knows that I've been completely unfairly treated by the judicial authorities, that my business and my reputation has been slandered by the exact people who were doing the crimes.
Well, hang on. What do you mean? Okay, let's unpick this. What do you mean by gotcha moment?
By you saying you tweeted this sarcastically and you can't say that. I don't think anybody's interested in this anymore. We have a much bigger and more.
I didn't know
concern.
whether it was. I didn't know what you were doing with this tweet. All I read was what you wrote, and then it got deleted. Right, which infers that either. Well, who deleted it first of all?
I understand if you don't understand sarcasm. My point is, we have a
who deleted it? Who deleted it?
While I was asleep, members of my staff deleted the tweets.
I got to get me a staff that does that. My ex is going to get me in a lot of trouble.
And I perhaps,
why?
In my bid to fight the UK government to the very end, perhaps where I'm so pressing on the point of truth, perhaps where I try and highlight how corrupt and how disgusting these people truly are, perhaps it would be more sensible for my own freedom to not tell the truth about some of these things and not be so pressing and not and go away and be quiet, because that's what they've been trying to make me do since the absolute beginning.
Well, that wouldn't be the point I would make. No, I don't think that's what your PR team was saying. I presume they were reading the words, "I miss human trafficking. The emotions ran high. Been chasing dopamine ever since." You know, I don't think it's a gotcha of me to read back your own words and to ask you what you mean by them, given that your own PR team deleted them.
It's clearly sarcastic and hyperbolic, and I think that to sit here and talk about tweets which are sarcastic as opposed to the systemic corruption that exists inside of all of our democratic institutions is probably a waste of time. We can talk about it for the rest of this interview. But clearly what's far more interesting is the fact that we have a ruling class which is ignoring the electorate completely. There's two-tier policing taking place. People are spending time with convicted pedophiles and sending them billions of dollars. And me highlighting in a hyperbolic and sarcastic way how ridiculous it is that 2 young boys from Luton were accused of human trafficking, slandered, investigated, and put in jail, while none of these people face 1% of the punishment my brother and I have been through. I think that highlighting that ridiculousness is actually quite important. It is absolutely insane that my brother and I have been investigated more heavily than anybody else inside of those files.
Let's turn to another controversy you were involved in recently. This was the night you went to a nightclub in Miami with Nick Fuentes, Myron Gaines, Sneeko, and Clavicular.
And Justin Waller. And the reason that I was wanting to review this one is because I want to see if he continues to snitch on Sneeko. I have a real problem with ratting your boys out. If you go out to dinner with people and y'all go out to a club, unless they're doing something illegal, you need to stop being like that. I don't care if you don't like him or not. Don't go with him if you don't like him. But it's just kind of, you're breaking man code there. Like if you go out with your boys, you're not snitching. You're not snitching unless it's something that's, above that. Playing a song. That was kind of a bitch move. I'm going to say that. And I was kind of lost a little respect for Tate. So I'm hoping he kind of backtracks that a little bit here.
All came under heavy criticism because in the van that you were traveling in with people live streaming from it, you were playing Kanye West's song Heil Hitler. And that song was then requested to be played once you got in the club to the DJ who played it unwittingly. There's been a lot of backlash.
Why was
this,
the DJ?
as you know.
Let's be professionals, Piers. Why was the DJ unwittingly? He was unaware of what the song was?
Well, he claims to have been unaware of what he was playing. So we'll come to that in a moment. Let's go through chronologically what happened here. Whose idea was it to play that song in the van?
Well, I didn't play the song in the van. And the great thing about this entire event is that it was live streamed and you could see me say, "What is this?"
Right.
And leave the van quickly. I also think it's pretty ridiculous for us to, once again, as we highlight that all of our institutions are completely corrupted to the core by satanic pedophiles, and completely ridiculous for us to sit here and ignore a genocide that just took place and complain about a song being played. I'm not going to sit here and say that it's okay.
Well, we're complaining. Well, hang on. We're complaining about it's ironic because we're complaining about a song being played that idolizes Adolf Hitler, who waged one of the all-time worst genocides against the Jewish people. So actually, it couldn't be more relevant. I'm glad you mentioned the.
How is that relevant? What are you going to do? Cancel him for it? You're going to debank him because he was in a club and a song played? Is that where we're really at right now? That you could just be, not even in that country. They're in England. That happened in Miami. So you're going to debank him or something because a song played in a club and he was in it? You gotta do an investigation to find out who played it, who whispered in the DJ's ear. What the fuck kind of place is England? Holy shit!
Genocide word. So let's just stick to what happened, because I'm curious. You're all in this van. The word is that it was Sneeko that put the record on in the van. Is that correct?
I believe it was Sneeko. It certainly wasn't me.
That's
Somebody
bitch
else
move there.
played it, and
The correct answer is I don't fucking know who played a song. It's a fucking song.
it's all on video. I'm sure that you and your team can do an investigation and work out who it was. And by association, being in a van when someone else plays a song, to try and grill me for that, considering that you were at a book launch and accidentally took a picture with somebody who's now in jail for pedophilia. You understand very well. Sometimes you're just in a place and
But I'm not
happens.
judging you. I'm not judging you in any way. I'm asking you what happened. This is your chance to clarify
What happened? A song fucking played, Pierce. A song fucking played. So fucking what?
what happened. You have sort of clarified it in other interviews. So again, it's easy to characterize what I'm doing as a gotcha. I'm not after a gotcha. This thing happened. It got well reported. You got hammered along with all the others for it. I'm just asking you, in your words, to clarify what happened, right? So you said, unless I misheard you earlier, you said that the moment you heard this being played, you didn't like it and you got out of the van. Why didn't you like this record being played?
Well, I think the best thing for people to do at home, if they're interested in this, instead of the satanic pedophiles which are ruling their lives, if they find this far more interesting, that the entire event took place on video and they can watch it themselves.
Yeah, but why don't you just answer my question? That's the easiest way.
Why would I answer the question when people can look up the video and they can watch it themselves and come to their own conclusions? And anybody who is more concerned about the fact I was in a van when someone else played a song, as opposed to the fact they're ruled over by demonic pedophiles, well, then they can raise that with me. I think there's far more pressing concerns. I think there's far more interesting things happening in the world. I think we're living in a system which is completely corrupted. I think we're living in an empire of lies. I think our votes are not real. The judicial system's not real. The media isn't real. The education system isn't real. They're lying to us. They're scamming us. They're trying to effectively genocide us in our host nations. And I don't think the fact that I was in a van when someone else played a song 1 month ago is worth our time.
Okay. But you do accept, I suppose, that for young people, but collectively, you have tens of millions of people that follow you on all your social medias, that imagery of you all apparently celebrating this song Heil Hitler, which in itself celebrates.
Oh, is it just them? Let's look around. It looks like an entire fucking crowd in a club is partying like you're supposed to in a club.
One of the most genocidal monsters in history.
I'm literally shaking my head.
That is.
Wow.
Okay, so I'm asking you what your reaction is to that song, because it happens in the van. We're now looking at footage of it happening in the club. You can see the others dancing along to it.
Don't dance for him, Tate. Just tell him it's a fucking song. So what? I don't care.
You, to be fair to you, do not look like you're quite as celebratory of it as they are, but you're laughing and shaking your head. So what are you actually thinking as Heil Hitler is being played in that nightclub and Fuentes and Sneeko and the others are celebrating?
Yeah, I'm smiling and shaking my head.
While your brother's starting a Congo line, just so you know. Stop trying to hide from this, Tate. Just accept it. Just accept it.
My head, because I believe it's deliberately provocative. And some people on the internet are trying to be exactly that. They want to be deliberately provocative to get clicks and get attention. With all due respect, Piers, you've been known to do it yourself. I wasn't interested in trying to be deliberately provocative. I went out because it was the first time I met some of those gentlemen. I stood in the club and repeatedly said, "This is boring, I want to leave." People can watch the video themselves. And I think it's far more interesting and far more concerning that members of our government, that our democratic institutions we're supposed to believe in, are corrupted to the core, and we're sending billions of dollars to convicted pedophiles. It's really amazing that me standing in a club playing a song, or me doing absolutely nothing wrong, is going to get endless media smear, me lose my companies, lose my banks, lose my passport, go to jail, locked in my house, try and take my children from me when I've never been convicted of any crime. And we're going to pretend I'm the boogeyman. Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer are going to sit here and mention that video along with other things and say I'm the boogeyman and I'm dangerous, as opposed to discuss the fact that our entire democratic institution has been infiltrated by satanic pedophiles, Piers. That is far more interesting to me. It affects far more people's lives. And it is truly disgusting that the media and its machine manages to conflate and distract and bring up garbage to take away people's attention from what truly matters in this world. We live in a democracy. The electorate should be respected. There should not be
Sorry.
secret rooms where deals are made and decisions happen outside of the view of the electorate, with or without satanic rituals, with or without sex. And it turns out there is all of this happening. And we now have some degree of transparency, thank very much to Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And I hope that the people who appear in the files are fully investigated to the full strength of the law, as I have been.
Donald Trump.
You know, the easier answer, far be it from me to teach you how to answer questions and interviews.
Someone needs
is
to
say that you find what's in the Epstein files utterly disgusting and reprehensible.
Well, that's clear.
And you find the idea of a bunch of very well followed influencers with big influence over young men in particular celebrating the song Heil Hitler is also
dancing to a song. Yes.
so disgusting and reprehensible. And you wish you had not been there at the time because obviously it reflects badly on everybody involved. That's the simple answer. And if you'd said that, I could respect it. Instead, you go on a long, torturous non-answer, which makes me think, well, did you care or not?
Well, perhaps, Piers, and I want to be honest with you because we've spoken quite a lot of times. Perhaps after going through the hell I've been through, and it's been truly hell, after going through the endless decimation attacks, the endless slander, after going through what I've been through while witnessing a genocide in real time. Remember, I was the first person to tell you on October 9th that it was a genocide before it was popular to say that. After watching all of these things, after understanding that we're ruled over by satanic pedophiles, after understanding that our entire judicial system is corrupt, after understanding that Jess Phillips and Keir Starmer are trying to put me in jail when I've done nothing wrong, while covering for pedophiles, perhaps the idea that a song played in a nightclub that I stood in, perhaps it just doesn't register on my metrics of importance. Perhaps I've just been through so much and I've seen so many terrible things are happening in the world right now that I don't think it's the biggest news story. And I really don't think it's worth your time or mine. You're an extremely well-known, established journalist. And we're talking about a nightclub playing a song 1 month ago. If a nightclub played a song about killing Black people or rape or murder, which is basically every single rap song that exists, nobody would care. So I think this is all highly ridiculous. And the more important thing is that Donald Trump and Elon Musk has allowed us some degree of transparency, the tip of
he means Massey,
the iceberg, into the insanity of what we believe is our democratic institutions and how corrupt they are. And I want every single person inside of the Epstein files, including the innocent people, including you, including Elon, including everyone, to be investigated to the full force of the law, because it is not down to them to admit wrongdoing. That is why we have a rule of law. Criminals do not admit they did things wrong. They go to court and they prove they did nothing wrong. And what I'm saying is that the British state has plenty of time. They have plenty of time to arrest people for tweets.
Yeah, you made the
plenty of time to arrest people for nothing. So they should be investigating this huge pile of evidence. And the real questions are these: why did they ignore the pile of evidence for a decade? 1. 2, who paid Jeffrey Epstein and made him so rich? 3, what were they paying him for?
You made all these points,
What decisions have taken place that have affected the lives of British people based on the back of bribe money paid to pedophiles as opposed to the will of the electorate? What laws need to be undone?
Andrew, you've made all these points, and I agree with many of the points you made in relation to that. I just think on the Heil Hitler thing, it is beyond pathetic to see influential young men celebrating Adolf Hitler. And in your case, given how strongly you feel about genocide, to be party to any of that in any way and not just come out and straightforwardly condemn it unreservedly is a shame. Because if you really care about genocide, you would want nothing to do with a song that celebrates Adolf Hitler. But we're not going to agree. I'm going to leave it there. And I appreciate you coming back on Uncensored. Thank you very much.
Okay. That's going to be the end of this first video. Piers is such a useful idiot. Like, they just used the shit out of him. Him admitting he worked for Mossad, a Mossad agent, that's just nuts. And acting and just brushing over it like that's nothing. He's in the media, and that's a Mossad spy. So that's weird. And this Trump love out of Tate just makes me think he's kind of shooting his mainstream shot. Like, he wants to do, he wants to be on Fox News or something. I don't know. But Trump did not do anything to help get those files out. He did everything he could to fight it, including telling his supporters he doesn't want them as supporters if they want those files. How is that being transparent? That's just silly to even say. But anyway, it is Feminism Friday. So I had to get to that video because it's kind of got a timer on it. But there's a little short one here with Pearl Davis. I got to add it to my description because this is last minute. I knew this wasn't going to be an hour. So let's check this one out.
If men's jobs disappeared tomorrow, society would crumble. If women's jobs disappeared tomorrow, society would be fine.
Oh, really? Who's going to raise all the children?
Do you think society discriminates more against men or women, or do you think it's equal?
I think that they discriminate more against women, but I don't, that's not to say that men aren't discriminated against in some aspects.
Okay, how are women more discriminated against?
As I've said before, in my own personal experience and statistically.
Other than, can we do something other than just people say mean words to me? Because men, by the time they're 22, somebody said a mean word to them. Usually it's a woman. So anything other than somebody said something I don't like.
Abortion bans. Can you name a law that controls what men can do and access healthcare and the healthcare that men can access?
Yeah, the same exact law that controls your right to murder babies now. Yes, that law contains us. Because if you decide to have the baby, we have to pay for it for 18 years, and there's no out for us. Men is just screwed. I bet you this bitch doesn't want to support letting men not have to pay for those children that they don't have no say in. I bet she doesn't, because it's all about women. Women have no accountability for anything. If they get pregnant, we'll just go take care of it. And if a man gets pregnant, you tell him take care of it for the next 18 years. You'll have no choice. Drop out of school and go get a good job. That's your advice to a man whenever he starts he has a baby he doesn't want, and you do the exact opposite for a woman. So how is that law an example?
Is there any laws that control men's healthcare access?
Well, if you want to talk about men's body, men are required to go into selective service. So if there is a wartime, they are required to be drafted.
Yeah, and I think that the draft should be abolished.
So you asked for a law. There's a law. There's a way that women's bodies aren't protected.
Like she said in the opening clip, who's going to raise the children? Well, who's going to go fight the wars, bitch? It ain't going to be you.
There's a way men's bodies aren't protected.
No, so it's actually, my question was different. My question was, can you name a law that restricts men's access to healthcare?
That restricts men's access to healthcare? No, not off the top of my head.
So there you go. That's one.
That's not one. Abortion is not healthcare. It's birth control.
Discriminatory
How are women
practice.
restricted access to healthcare? You can drive to another state and get an abortion.
Yeah, well, then that's also not taking into account like socioeconomic factors, right? Because not every person has.
Oh, if you don't have money, then I guess that law we're supposed to pay for it now. We got to pay for you to go murder a baby in another state. That's not our problem.
The ability or the
Stop having
funds
sex.
or the time to
Broke
be able
bitch.
to just cross state lines to gain access. We shouldn't have different healthcare access in different states. Your geographical location should not determine your access to a human right.
Okay, well,
You haven't proven it's a human right. So what's your point?
again, luckily for women, we have access to birth control, abstinence, and even you can even track your cycle and not get pregnant. So I think there's
Right, but only men are punished. Only men.
plenty of options beforehand that it really isn't an excuse if you have an unplanned pregnancy.
So actually about 50% of unplanned pregnancies used protection. And so that's just
Well,
an
then you
incorrect
should
statement.
Prove
learn
it.
to use it better.
That's
And
not
the
how
other
that
and
works.
the other thing is after the kid's born, you could argue that it's an equally irresponsible
Condoms do work. They suck, but they work.
move when men and women have unprotected sex or there's some problem with the birth control. Fine, equally irresponsible. But after the woman has more control, she has the right to she's the only one who gets to decide if she takes a plan B. She's the only one that gets to decide to put him on child support or alimony if they're married. Men don't have a right to their wallets after the kid is born.
Yeah, so pregnancy involves your body and your internal organs.
Does it?
And that is worth more than any money.
Sex sometimes does too, doesn't it?
Yeah, but that's okay. That's
Don't do
9
that and you
months
won't have
a
the
year.
second
What
one.
about the rest of the time? What about 18 years after?
Right. And so then there's like 2 years after that you're breastfeeding. And then there's the unequal division of childcare and domestic labor. So it's so much more than 9 months. But to go back, we cannot minimize that 9 months. Having your body be not your own for 9 months is 9 months too long.
Whose is it? Whose is it? Whose does it belong to?
Yeah, but there are men dying when they go and do their jobs, and
They
they're
can get a
not
different job.
complaining about it.
Get it?
They can get a different job.
No,
In the military, when you're drafted, get a different job. Excuse me, Mr. General, I don't want to do this. This looks scary. Let me go peel potatoes. That's not how the military works. Oh,
because men understand that
is this chick a whatever girl? Like, what the fuck?
somebody has to do it.
Yeah, they don't have to do it.
They understand. Well, that's why it's admirable that they do it anyway and they don't complain. And that's what I keep
Complaining.
going back to is what feminists tend to want is they want all of the credit and they want to over exaggerate their problems.
So I would actually like to go back to the comparison you made of pregnancy and men going to work. Do you think those two things are the same?
I think that a man going to a dangerous job is far worse than a woman being pregnant.
And do you think that the majority of
Far
men
far
work-
more dangerous, I'll say. That's more accurate. Better and good is like it's
We can look that up. Let's see how many people die, men who die in dangerous jobs versus the percentage of women who die in childbirth in the West. I'll bet you the men have it way ahead in that one.
subjective, right?
Yeah. And as I've said before, I think that we should have better safety protocols and we should improve the safety of all workers. So I think that that should be addressed.
Get
But
on it.
also, the
Should-
majority
should,
of men.
but it isn't, right?
You heard that, fellas? Get on it. This bitch thinks y'all need to be more safe. I know you weren't trying before.
Like, 'cause
Right,
when
but are you
when we
arguing
go-
for it to be?
Here's the difference. Okay, so feminists have a tendency to think that if we complain, things will just happen. And I'm more realistic, where I know that just because we say, oh, it should be better, well, it's not.
So
And men understand that because they have had to deal with that reality from a young age.
you recognize that the only reason you have a microphone and you have a show is because feminists complained
No, because a man invented it, so you could have it.
because we wanted a voice.
That's
Because
not true.
It actually is.
It's not true.
being-
There's
having-
writers, there
As if women weren't talking before that. That you actually had a good spot then because you had the moral high ground. You weren't part of all of it. Now you're in the mix, so now you got to earn it, and that's the problem. Y'all don't think of anything smart to say, just like you.
there's writers, there's female
now.
writers in the 1800s, 1700s,
And they had to write under
1600s.
male pseudonyms.
It's not true.
It is true.
Not true.
Well, you can say it's not true, but it's history
not
and it's
true.
statistics. It is.
Have you heard of Mary Shelley? Are you familiar? Marie Curie? Like that women did things. We just didn't force it in.
That's not true.
It is. We used
There were
to not
women in
have a
power. We
voice.
had Cleopatra. We had women in power throughout all of history. There are
Exactly.
examples of them.
When were
The
women?
first female property owner was in the 1600s in the United States.
When were women allowed to have their own bank accounts?
Women were allowed to have their own bank accounts in what does that have to do with writing? You're changing the topic.
No, I'm not.
You're
It's moving the goalposts. Yeah.
changing the topic because I'm right. They were
No.
allowed to write. They were.
You're the one who brought up female writers.
But
That
okay,
wasn't the
go
question.
ahead. So, sometime in the 1900s, I can't remember the year.
Yeah, it was like in the 1970s.
Yeah, around
is
there.
when women were allowed to have bank accounts. So when we're talking
And
about women,
what's happened since we got bank accounts?
Mhm.
We
What's
own
happened?
80
You
we
tell
own
me.
80% of the world's debt. There's a reason people did things the way they did.
you don't think that women should be able to have their own bank accounts?
Fuck
I
no.
don't think they shouldn't have bank accounts. I think everyone should have the right, and they do. But there's a reason. I think when we look at the past, we have to look at the reason that people did things. And one of the reasons is women are very irresponsible with money. They own 80% of the world's debt, even though they make less money than men.
So did you know that the majority of household finances are regulated and controlled by women?
Yeah, I knew that. They make
Exactly.
80% of consumer buying decisions.
Yeah.
So that's what I said. They spend.
Yeah, that's the point.
And you,
That's what I said. They
Right,
spend
because-
money.
because
they spend money
households-
they don't
Thanks for proving Pearl's point.
have.
we do have the money.
Not anymore. I mean, the average woman out of college has $30,000 worth. How much debt do you have? You have to have six figures coming out of
I
med
do have six
school.
figures
Yeah,
of debt, and
exactly.
the student
And the-
debt. Yeah, because
And
if
the thing
you,
is, in your profession, I mean, on average, women leave the medical profession when they have a kid or
Mhm.
within 5
But a
years.
nurse?
So odds are you
God,
won't
nurses
pay it
are
off,
dumb.
I'm not saying you personally. I hope you do, right? I'm not wishing it one way or another. But statistically, women make their debt someone else's problem.
men do the same thing.
No, they don't. So
this-
they looked at women paying off their debt and men paying off their college debt, and men have been making payments towards it the last 5 years, and women.
I have dated women who told me they were looking for a rich man. They've fucking straight up said it. Can you imagine me pretending like I'm looking for a rich woman? Men don't even think that way unless they're just gross.
Haven't.
So it's funny because you just
go ahead.
mentioned how
ahead.
women will leave their careers because they have to take care of children. And that probably plays a large role into why they're not able to pay back their student debt compared to men who continue to be a part of the workforce even after they have children. Do you see how those two things like might be correlated?
No, because women aren't having kids anymore. That would have
We
been the
are.
case, maybe the case before, but now they're not really having children.
We are still having children. That's
On
an incorrect
average,
statement.
it's like 1.5 now.
So not even at replacement, right? So we're going down until you hit 2, because 2 people make a baby. You need to be at 2 just to replace the people who are going to be going.
I mean, you have 1 kid, you can put it in daycare, you can still work.
You can put it in daycare.
Sorry, his or her.
Yeah. See, and this is the problem is like when we see people as commodities instead of actual people, like that's where we run into this thing of like, I don't care how you feel, you make stupid decisions instead of taking a
No, we're like that because we don't care how you feel. This is work. You can hate it all you like. Just get it done and go home. We don't fucking want to have these discussions at work. No one cares how you feel. Just get the shit done and go home. Feel all you like when you get there.
nuanced perspective and the complexity of the human experience and recognizing that there are so many things that contribute into these cherry pick statistics.
Well, you think that the world owes you understanding and it doesn't.
Yeah.
I think that it does. I think that we owe everybody understanding. I think that in order for me,
Where's that written? In the Constitution? I didn't hear it. Where the fuck did you owe everybody that?
so you know what? I think that this is something we need to clarify.
Yeah, go ahead.
I partake in these conversations because I want a better world. I develop my opinions based on how I think or based on what I think is going to improve the human condition and improve people's quality of life. Why do you take part in these conversations?
I like to report on what's going on.
Okay, so you have no desire to improve the world and to be like an advocate for change and progression.
It would be nice, but I don't expect it.
See, and for me, one of my favorite quotes is the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do. And you can
In
call
my
me a dreamer.
experience, they're the ones who do not.
I mean, historically, you're wrong.
Prove
I
it.
don't think so.
Prove it.
Martin Luther King had a dream, didn't he?
Okay,
God.
but how many guys tried to be Martin Luther King and failed? I'm not
Right.
saying there
And
aren't
that's
people.
that's a
but
societal issue because we resist progression, and you're one of the people who is allowing society to resist progression instead of allowing progression to happen.
how am
instead
I
of,
allowing society to? What is
How is it progressing to have more women around to do less work? How is that progressing? Who does that benefit besides the woman? No one.
does that even mean?
yeah, so you
Okay, no, go ahead. Go ahead. It's fine.
This is standpoint theory because all this only benefits women. How do men get benefit from that? From going to work every day and having to do twice the work because now you got to make up for the girl who works with you. I was a police officer. I've had to go on calls with women just because they can't handle it themselves. How does that make how does that make anything better at all? All it does is piss guys off.
Yeah, because you say, I see the reality right now and I report on the reality right now. And when I say, yeah, we should recognize what's happening now and improve on it. You say, oh, men are dying in the workplace. And I'm like, okay, let's address that. Let's see why they're doing that. Let's see how
Let's get some women to go do those jobs that are dangerous and see if they can make it through.
we can improve on that. And then you're like, yeah, that's not realistic. I live in reality. Where you see how I am advocating for progression. I'm advocating for improvement. Where you're just like, yeah.
Improvement just for you because you're the girl. You're the incompetent girl we're going to have to deal with. We're going to have to listen to you whining and trying to tell us how we need to change everything. Even though we've been doing it this way for hundreds of years, now you're here to change everything for us and make it better for you.
You know what? That's not the world we live in. And I don't have any idea or any desire to improve on the shitty statistics that I constantly report on.
Yeah, so I think that sounds nice, but again, it doesn't change the reality of the situation. So you saying something on a podcast doesn't change the amount of men that die every year in a crab fishing boat. But what I like to do is be as accurate as I possibly can. And that is why I say that women do not do as useful or as needed jobs in society as men do. If men's jobs disappeared tomorrow, society would crumble. If women's jobs disappeared tomorrow, society would be fine.
Oh, really? Who's going to raise all the children?
Women aren't even raising their own kids. They're in daycare.
There wouldn't be no children if we got rid of women, but I'm saying if they're at home, I think.
That's actually
They're
incorrect.
in daycare and public school.
No.
No, it's $1 billion industry.
It is $1 billion industry, but statistically, women have the majority of childcare burden, and not a lot of people.
Right. And if we don't let them work, they'll be at home to take care of the children. What is she not getting? Are she thinking we're just going to like eliminate them all and just like cut their heads off? No, they just stay home and let the men go to work. That's
Can afford daycare nowadays.
Well, who is the kid spending the most time with if the mom's at work? Most mothers work nowadays. So the kid is spending more time at school or at daycare.
Yeah,
Because usually
or
school
with
gets out
extended family.
at like 2:30. It's not the norm. People don't really have extended family. School gets out at 2:30 or 3. They go to daycare for 2 or 3 hours.
What about before school? What about before daycare? Because a lot of times,
Okay, like
especially in that
45
first
minutes in the morning.
no, like the first 2 years of life at least,
Mhm.
a lot of people aren't sending newborns and like
It's not uncommon.
no, it's not uncommon, but it's also
My sister works at a daycare. They get newborns like
Yeah.
within the first couple
right.
months
But
all the
we're
time.
talking about like populations, right? We're
Mhm.
talking about like statistics, and the majority of people are not
Can I look
sending
up
their
the average age? Do you care if I look? I'm just
No, you can
curious.
look it
What
up.
is the average age kids go in daycare?
No, that's
I
not-
actually don't know the answer to that question.
that wouldn't be the
Kids.
question that I would ask, but I'm curious what that answer is.
Okay, I'm just curious. We recommend kids start daycare as early as 6 weeks old. Doesn't give me an average, just says kids can start daycare as early as 6 weeks. That's all I got.
Yeah, well, I mean, again, that would because that wouldn't
Yeah,
be the question
yeah,
that I
yeah,
would
no.
Google.
Go ahead.
Like it would be because right, we're talking about breastfeeding, we're talking about like bonding,
Mhm.
a lot of these things, like especially in the first 2 to 6 months of life at least,
Mhm.
like women bear the majority of that labor.
Sure, but I say so what?
I could say that to any
men bear the majority of labor of running society for a lifetime.
And
On average, women have 1 to 2 kids. So okay, you could say that's 4 years. Men work 50. 50 in a difficult job that gives us the food that we have, the chairs we're sitting on, and the microphone we're talking in.
And who set that system up?
You should say
Who
thank you,
cares?
men did. Thank God for them.
No,
Yeah,
you
you're
seem
welcome.
to have a problem with the amount that men work and the responsibility
I
that men
don't.
bear. And so
I
you're
don't
being
have a problem with it.
She seems to have a problem with the responsibility women bear. That one time if they have children, and if they don't have children, they have no duty ever. Never. So what the fuck?
acknowledging what it is. And women should be thankful to men for doing it
Absolutely.
instead of complaining that they're not doing enough to make women's lives comfortable. We live in one of the most privileged times to be a woman ever. I mean, you have even the fact that you're saying the biggest problem is that they have to raise their kids in the early years. You know how privileged that is? I mean, you have the option to put them in daycare. You have the option to delay motherhood. They made IVF for us. They gave you birth. Like, we have so many choices now. And we're still going to say they're not doing enough? That's bullshit.
Do you know how much work it takes to raise children?
I'm one of 10.
Yeah, so you should be
I'm one of 10 kids.
Okay, so here's my next question. Are your parents still married?
Yeah.
And wasn't your mom like a feminist on the UN who fought for women's rights at a global level?
Me and my mom don't agree on everything. What's your point?
Yeah, that she had 9 children and she's happily married as a feminist. So it seems like you should be fully aware and
She's
fully
not a feminist. She took me to Sarah Palin rallies when I was a kid.
Okay,
I went to like pro-life rallies when I was 12.
yeah, I mean
This
they're
didn't come out of nowhere.
right, but she also did advocate on a global level for like women's opportunities.
We all make mistakes. She's making up for it now by raising Pearl. Good job.
So it seems like you should be fully.
Here's the thing: the internet only has half of that story, and
Usually
I
does.
can't. Yeah, I can't tell the full one, just because it's not my place. So I can't really use that as an. I'm telling you, you're wrong though. That's not. If you had the full story, I just can't talk about it here.
Yeah, you
That's
say
the-
that a lot when people bring up your family, which is fine. But my main point is that
Maybe because it's true. Like, should she change it every time she talks to somebody? Yeah, if it's not her story, I bet her mom had some bad experience where she saw feminism wasn't right. A lot of women think stupid things when they're young, like this bitch. Listen to what she's saying. She's going to be ashamed of this when she gets older, hopefully.
you are not ignorant to these ideas. You are not ignorant to these arguments. Like you on a global and personal level, like are aware of them.
Mhm.
So to say who cares, like your mom cares, you know, to say who cares, a lot of us care.
Mhm.
And I think that it takes a lot of strength to care. And I think that it actually to say, oh, I don't care, stop complaining, that's the easy way out. I don't want to take the easy way out. I think that being passionate about empathy is really like the strength. It takes strength to be sensitive. It takes strength to be vulnerable and transparent. I think that it's really easy, and it's the easy way out to just be callous and to say we can't make change and I don't care about your
Woman prattle. Nothing she just said has anything to back it up. It's all her opinion. I think this, I think that. I don't care what you think, bitch.
feelings.
Okay, well, again, you can say that, but it doesn't change the reality of the world. And the thing is, if you want to be in a man's world, then be in it. And what women try to do is they go into a man's world and tell them how it should be different.
Yeah, because as you've
Even
recognized,
though
Yeah.
they've done none of
it
the
seems
work,
like you are
even
you
though they've done
interviewing
the
me, or are
work,
we?
even though they've done none of the work of building the society. But go ahead, sorry.
I would argue that our society would be better off if we did have a part in building it.
So another opinion. Cool. Let's see how that works. Where have you ever seen it work? Where? Oh, in the movies. You're right. They have Wakanda for black people, and then they have Themyscira for the women. So that's your example, Themyscira, a made-up country in a comic book.
Our society has been stagnated and has been held back because women have been held back. Imagine the prosperity and imagine the opportunity that the world would have if women weren't held back and women weren't stagnated. And you continuously complain about these things that men have to endure and then simultaneously call it a men's world that women should be grateful to be a part of, but we should also be sensitive towards the things that they've built that are detrimental to themselves.
So what do you think men did historically? Like, what do you think their jobs were? Like 1800s, what were your choices as a man to do as a job? Because, you always talk about how women were held back historically. So I'm asking, like, what was life like back then?
Well, women had to
1800s.
stay home and men had to do all of the jobs
Okay.
because they didn't allow women to help them.
What were their jobs that they did? What were the most common methods of employment back then?
I mean, what do you mean? I mean, it's going to be construction, it's going to be medicine, it's going to be food production, it's going to be factories, it's going like the same thing that runs all of society.
So they had
think so.
3 choices: coal miner, farmer, factory worker.
Nothing else happened in society. In the
I'm not saying
1800s.
nothing else. That was the majority of how people were employed.
Mm-hmm.
So you guys have this like rewritten history where you guys think that men just had these glamorous, fun jobs, but
No.
men did the difficult job. Men know that they didn't enjoy their jobs. Like, do you think of any guys going to a coal mine and saying, "Wow, this is my passion"?
And again, who
My grandpas were coal miners for a period. They both had black lung. I don't think there was a lot of women applying for that job. And I think even once we started this feminist revolution, they still don't apply for that fucking job. No, they don't want those. They want to go sit in an executive suite because they think they all need to be in charge. And that's the fucking problem. They've been brainwashed into thinking like this bimbo thinks she's smart. And I bet men have told her, yes, good job, all the way through school. And now she's either a nurse or if she's a doctor, I'm going to lose it.
set that system up?
It's not about who set it up. It's how would the system run without it. They need coal. At the time, they needed coal. Like the same way now, somebody has to build the
Sorry.
buildings. Somebody has to get the food. Otherwise, society does not run.
Correct. And we're better off when women participate and when women are able to help men.
Based on what?
We talk about all
Based on what? These are all things she just keeps asserting everything and nothing gets backed up. It's all her opinions.
of these like detrimental aspects of these harmful industries. And arguably, if we cared about how people felt, we were compassionate towards their experience, we would put more time and energy to improving these harmful industries. And if women had been allowed to enter into these industries earlier, you could argue that they would be safer industries because we have empathy and we want to value progression and we want to recognize problems and address them. We don't just see a problem and say, hey, that's a problem, and then sit on it. Like,
No, we need you to come change everything that's gotten us for the past 2,000 years. We needed a bitch to come fix it all. That's what we need. That weren't there bitches 2,000 years ago? Why didn't they speak up then? Right. Because they knew back then.
no, you
They knew.
recognize a problem, you recognize what causes it, and you fix it.
Okay, so I told you about the crab fishing today. What are you going to do now?
As I said, that's not my job. There are people
Okay,
who
so
are
you're
on,
doing the same
excuse me,
thing.
if I
Sorry,
could
okay,
please
go
speak.
ahead, go ahead.
As I've said before, there are people on safety committees. There are people on workers' unions. There are people whose jobs are dedicated to worker safety. So if you're very passionate about that, you should probably invite one of them to sit down in the studio and ask them that question.
So
Okay,
nothing. You're doing nothing. Yeah.
You're not going to do
Because that's
anything
not
about
my
it? Okay.
job.
I'm just clarifying you're doing the same thing.
No, because I'm more than happy to recognize that it's a problem that should be addressed by somebody whose specialty it is to address that problem.
Well, thank you very much for coming on. This was fun. You want to tell them your socials and your social media where they
Yeah.
can find you? Go ahead.
Yeah, so you can find me primarily on TikTok. I'm
Okay, makes
Dr.
sense.
Bronte.
Doctor,
BRONTE.
God damn it, doctor. Jesus Christ. Doctor. This dumbass is a doctor. Oh. All right. I'm going to cut it here. I'm too sick to be fucking putting up with this kind of shit. So I'm sorry. I will see y'all Monday because, like I said, I can't take a day off until I get monetized. But holy shit. Feminism Friday kind of fucks me up because feminists are so stupid. They give me headaches normally. And I got like 2 pounds of snot in my head right now. So I'm going to go lay down and then go to a doctor or a morgue. And we will reconvene this on Monday. I might do something during the weekend. I've been trying to do content search. If y'all want to come, Content Quest, if y'all want to come just shoot the breeze while I'm looking for content to react to, that I doubt if it's going to happen this week, but I am trying to start getting to where I can do that from time to time. I had a lot of fun whenever I did a couple of them. It's just fun getting to know y'all. So I will see y'all Monday for sure. And subscribe. And I will see y'all Monday. I will see y'all. Let me do this first. And I will see y'all on Monday. Peace.
Beat the odds, beat the big house. Her brains are bigger than a doubt. We've been thinking for ourselves, never let the truth fade away. This is bigger than ourselves. We won't let the world burn.